They say the truth has a funny way of surfacing, but I never imagined it would surface through grainy security cameras at a salt mining plant. After 5 years of marriage, I thought I knew my wife Anda better than anyone. We met at work, dated for a year, and built what I believed was a solid foundation. In our small town, gossip travels faster than a salt truck on delivery day. But somehow I missed the biggest story of all. When my former security colleague, John, called me for drinks, I had no idea I was about to discover the most awkward truth of my life through workplace surveillance cameras. But to understand how we got there, you need to know about our peculiar little town and the industrial romance that started it all. Welcome to Salt Mine Central Population. Everyone knows everyone. Our entire town revolves around one massive salt mining operation that employs practically everyone within a 50-mile radius. The plant sits at the center of our community, like some industrial heartbeat, pumping out paychecks and gossip in equal measure. When you work at the same place as half the town, including your spouse, you quickly learn that privacy becomes a luxury you can't afford. The break room conversations flow seamlessly from production quotas to who's dating whom. And somehow everyone knew about the mayor's wife's alleged affair with the hardware store owner before the mayor did. Information travels through our plant's informal network faster than official announcements from management. Working alongside your spouse creates this bizarre dynamic where your professional life and personal life merge into one continuous stream of togetherness. You see each other during shift changes, lunch breaks, and mandatory safety meetings, then go home and pretend to have separate lives. The funny thing about small-town industrial romance is that everyone becomes invested in your relationship status, whether you want them to or not. Your coworkers notice when you and your spouse arrive separately, when you eat lunch at different tables, or when one of you looks upset during the morning briefing. The shift supervisors know which couples are going through rough patches before the couples themselves realize it, simply because workplace behavior tells the whole story. When Anna and I both worked there, our colleagues could read our relationship status better than we could, picking up on subtle changes in our interactions that we completely missed. What makes this situation particularly amusing is how the same security infrastructure designed to protect company property would eventually become the star witness in my personal drama. The plant had installed surveillance cameras throughout the facility to prevent theft, and the packaging department where Anna worked received additional cameras after several incidents involving missing inventory. These cameras capture everything from minor workplace accidents to major equipment failures, creating a comprehensive record of daily operations. Nobody thinks twice about the cameras after a while because they become part of the industrial landscape, as familiar as the safety signs and emergency exits. The irony of my situation starts with my background in security, which should have made me more aware of surveillance blind spots and suspicious behavior patterns. Yet when it came to my own marriage, I apparently developed a complete blind spot that would have embarrassed my former supervisors. The surveillance technology that protected company assets would soon reveal that some thefts involve more than just missing inventory. Sometimes the most advanced security measures protect you from threats you never saw coming, especially when those threats emerge from the most trusted sources. But to understand how I ended up in this position, you need to know about my journey from night shift security guard to the kind of success that apparently made me too busy to notice what was happening right under my nose. From security guard to husband, the career climb nobody warned me about. Starting my career as a night security guard seemed like the perfect temporary solution to pay for technical college. I requested night shifts specifically because they pay better and left my days free for classes. My partner and I would walk the plant perimeter with flashlights and radios, checking doors and watching for anything unusual. The work felt important and gave me real independence from my parents for the first time. I earned decent money while learning skills that would serve me well in future positions. The night shifts taught me to observe people and situations with careful attention to detail. We documented everything from minor equipment issues to unusual employee behavior in our reports. The training emphasized watching for patterns that might indicate theft, safety violations, or unauthorized access. I became skilled at reading body language, noticing when someone acted nervous or defensive, and identifying situations that required closer investigation. These observation skills made me feel like an expert at detecting deception and suspicious activity, Though I would later discover that professional vigilance means nothing when you're emotionally invested in trusting someone. After graduation, I transitioned smoothly from security to maintenance technician, then eventually earned promotion to department supervisor. Each advancement brought increased responsibility and better pay, making me feel like I was building a solid foundation for adult life. The career progression happened exactly as I had planned during those long night shifts when I dreamed about my future. The maintenance technician role introduced me to the plant's complex mechanical systems and gave me hands-on experience with industrial equipment. I learned to troubleshoot problems, perform preventive maintenance, and coordinate repairs with minimal downtime. Becoming a department supervisor meant managing both equipment and people, which presented new challenges I hadn't anticipated. I coordinated maintenance schedules, supervised repair crews, and reported directly to plant management about operational issues. The position required me to balance technical expertise with leadership skills, often making decisions that affected both productivity and safety. My salary increased significantly, providing the financial stability I needed to consider starting a family. My former security colleagues remained part of my professional network even after I moved to maintenance. We would share information about plant operations, discuss safety concerns, and maintain the informal communication system that connected different departments. These relationships proved valuable for coordinating work between security and maintenance teams, especially when equipment issues affected facility safety. I never imagined these connections would eventually provide the most devastating information of my personal life. The career advancement that made me feel so accomplished also created conditions for marital problems I didn't recognize. Increased responsibilities meant longer hours, more stress, and less time for personal relationships. I focused on proving myself worthy of each promotion, working late to ensure projects finished on schedule. The dedication that impressed my supervisors apparently frustrated my wife, but I interpreted her complaints as temporary adjustment issues rather than serious relationship problems. 5 years into our marriage, my promotion to chief mechanic represented the peak of my career ambitions and the beginning of my marriage's decline. The position required me to oversee all mechanical systems throughout the plant, coordinate major repairs, and manage a team of skilled technicians. I stayed late most evenings to complete paperwork, plan maintenance schedules, and ensure equipment operated efficiently. The increased income should have improved our quality of life, but instead created distance between Anna and me that I failed to recognize. John remained in the security department throughout my career changes, eventually becoming senior security officer with access to all surveillance systems. He knew about my background in security and understood how the camera systems operated. Our friendship continued through casual conversations during shift changes and occasional after-work social events. I valued his perspective on plant operations and trusted his judgment about security matters, never suspecting he would become the messenger of my personal catastrophe. The surveillance cameras I helped install during my security days evolved into a comprehensive monitoring system that documented everything happening throughout the facility. New cameras appeared regularly as management expanded coverage to address theft concerns and safety compliance requirements. The packaging department received additional cameras after several incidents involving missing inventory and unauthorized access during off hours. These security upgrades happened gradually, with each new camera becoming part of the familiar workplace landscape. My expertise in surveillance technology should have made me more aware of how thoroughly the cameras documented routine workplace activities. I knew exactly where cameras were positioned, what angles they covered, and how long recordings were stored. Yet I never considered that this same technology might capture activities involving people I trusted most. The professional knowledge that should have protected me from surprises instead provided the perfect tool for discovering the most shocking surprise of my life. The combination of my security background, career advancement, and former colleague relationships created the perfect storm for uncovering truth in the most ironic way possible. My past experience would return to haunt me through the very surveillance systems I once operated, delivered by someone who shared my professional history. But before we get to that devastating phone call from John, you need to understand how this whole mess started in the most unlikely place for romance. The packaging department meet romance in the industrial age. Anna worked the same shift as me in the packaging department, where romance meant trying to make a good first impression while wearing mandatory safety goggles and listening to the constant hum of conveyor belts. She had recently graduated from college and started at the plant around the same time I transitioned from security to maintenance. We crossed paths during equipment checks and shift changes, exchanging basic pleasantries about work schedules and equipment reliability, the kind of conversation that happens 100 times daily in any workplace. I introduced myself during a routine maintenance check on one of the packaging machines. Anna was adjusting settings on a quality control station when I approached to inspect nearby equipment. She wore the standard issue safety uniform that somehow looked better on her than anyone else in the department. Her hair was pulled back in the required safety style, and she had mastered the art of looking professional while surrounded by industrial chaos. We talked about work schedules and equipment problems, nothing particularly memorable at the time. The breakthrough came when I offered her a ride home after our shift ended. She mentioned that her car was having problems and she had been catching rides with various coworkers. I volunteered to give her a lift, thinking it was just a neighborly gesture between colleagues. The drive to her house took about 15 minutes, during which we discovered we had similar backgrounds and shared interests beyond our jobs at the plant. She lived with her mother in a small house across town, while I had recently moved into my own apartment after saving enough money for my security job. These rides home became a regular arrangement over the following weeks. Anna would wait for me in the employee parking lot after our shifts ended, and we would continue conversations that started during brief workplace encounters. The car rides provided the only private time we had together, away from the constant noise and supervision of the plant environment. We talked about our college experiences, career goals, and life outside the salt mining operation. The conversations grew more personal as we became comfortable with each other, developing the kind of mutual affection that workplace relationships often produce. The 15-minute drives became the foundation of our entire relationship. Away from the industrial chaos and constant supervision, we could actually hear each other speak without shouting over machinery. Anna revealed personality traits during these car rides that seemed charming at the time. She was particular about her appearance, always looking polished despite the industrial work environment. She complained occasionally about the job's physical demands and the way the work environment affected her hair and clothing. She mentioned feeling overlooked by supervisors and frustrated with the limited advancement opportunities in the packaging department. I found reasons to check equipment near Anna's workstation more frequently than necessary, timing my rounds to coincide with her breaks and lunch periods. The department supervisor tolerated these interactions as long as they didn't interfere with productivity or safety protocols. Other workers in the department noticed our growing friendship and made the usual workplace comments about office romance, but management generally ignored personal relationships unless they created problems. Anna displayed behaviors during our dating period that seemed like healthy self-confidence. She was always conscious of her appearance and made efforts to look attractive despite the challenging work environment. She seemed to thrive on attention and compliments from coworkers, which I interpreted as normal social behavior. She occasionally mentioned feeling unappreciated or ignored by supervisors, expressing frustration when her efforts went unnoticed. These personality traits seemed reasonable for someone working in a demanding industrial environment. The decision to move in together happened after 6 months of dating, followed by marriage 6 months later. This timeline felt natural, given our daily contact at work and the intensity of workplace relationships. We saw each other during shifts, ate lunch together, and spent evenings discussing our shared experiences at the plant. The constant togetherness accelerated our relationship in ways that might not have happened if we worked in different locations. We thought we knew each other completely because we spent so much time together, but workplace behavior doesn't always reflect home personality. 6 months felt like enough time to make life-changing decisions when you see someone every day at work. The intensity of workplace relationships creates a false sense of knowing someone completely. The packaging department contained numerous storage rooms and equipment spaces that provided privacy from the main production floor, areas I had maintained during my security days. I never imagined that one of those storage rooms I've once helped secure would later become the scene of betrayal. The irony of offering rides home would eventually come full circle when I discovered Anna was getting rides from someone else. The same gesture that started our relationship became symbolic of its end. The workplace romance that seemed so natural and convenient would prove to have built-in vulnerabilities that neither of us anticipated. The industrial setting that brought us together would ultimately provide the evidence that tore us apart. What I didn't realize was that getting married to someone you work with means you never actually escape each other. And sometimes that constant proximity reveals things you never wanted to discover. Marriage life, when reality meets your Pinterest board expectations. Our marriage started with Pinterest. Perfect expectations about spending every day together, but the reality felt more like being trapped in a romantic comedy where nobody gets the joke. We worked the same shift, ate lunch at the same time, and drove home together in the same car. Most couples get to miss each other during the day and have stories to share when they reunite at home, but we experienced everything together in real time. Our conversations at dinner consisted mainly of rehashing events we had both witnessed firsthand, which made for some pretty repetitive evenings. The weirdest part about workplace marriage was discovering how different Anna acted at the plant versus at home. At work, she maintained perfect professional composure, followed all safety protocols, and interacted politely with supervisors and coworkers. At home, however, she became much more critical and demanding, pointing out problems with our apartment, our finances, and our relationship that she never mentioned during work hours. The most telling change was her sudden bathroom ritual before work shifts. She started spending 20 minutes applying makeup and fixing her hair for a job that required safety goggles and hard hats. When I asked about the extra effort, she claimed the industrial environment made her feel unattractive and she needed to compensate. I noticed early warning signs that seemed completely normal at the time, but would later make devastating sense. Anna mentioned feeling overlooked by supervisors and complained that her efforts went unnoticed by management. She seemed particularly interested in gossip about other employees and asked detailed questions about my interactions with various coworkers. I dismissed these behaviors as normal working stress rather than signs of deeper dissatisfaction. The packaging department was known for its demanding supervisors and high-pressure environments, so her complaints seemed reasonable. Keeping work drama separate from marriage drama became impossible when both happened in the same building. If Anna had a difficult day with her supervisor, she would bring that frustration home and it would affect our entire evening. When we disagreed about household responsibilities, the tension would carry over into our workplace interactions the next day. Our coworkers could read our relationship status based on how we interacted during shift changes and lunch breaks. The packaging department became a stage where our personal problems played out in front of an audience of curious colleagues. The comedic irony of believing I knew Anna completely just because we spent every waking hour together became obvious only in hindsight. Constant proximity created an illusion of intimacy that masked the actual distance growing between us. I assumed that seeing her daily work performance meant I understood her personality completely. I thought our shared workplace experiences created a bond that other couples couldn't match. The reality was spending every moment together prevented us from having the kind of separate experiences that give couples interesting things to discuss and share. Workplace marriages operate without instruction manuals, and neither Anna nor I understood the unique challenges we faced. We entered marriage with romantic notions about spending every day together and building a life around our shared employment. Nobody warned us about the claustrophobic effect of constant togetherness or the difficulty of maintaining individual identities when your entire social circle comes from the same workplace. We learned through trial and error that some couples need space to maintain attraction and interest in each other. The contrast between our public behavior at work and our private struggles at home became increasingly obvious to anyone paying attention. We maintained professional courtesy during work hours, coordinating our tasks and interacting politely in front of colleagues. Behind closed doors, however, we were dealing with growing dissatisfaction and communication problems that we never discussed openly. I thought we were successfully keeping our personal issues private, but the strain probably showed in ways I didn't recognize at the time. Anna's complaints about attention and affection were actually requests for a different kind of attention entirely. She mentioned that I didn't notice her efforts to look good for me, and that I didn't show enough affection or appreciation. I interpreted these comments as normal relationship maintenance issues that could be resolved through better time management and more conscious effort. I failed to understand that her complaints represented deeper emotional needs that weren't being met through our current relationship pattern. She was basically interviewing for someone else to fill the position I was neglecting. The reality of Anna's growing dissatisfaction became clear through her changing behavior patterns. She stopped arguing with my explanations about work responsibilities and time management issues. Instead of continuing our discussions about relationship problems, she would simply nod and agree with whatever I said. This apparent acceptance felt like progress to me, but it actually meant she had stopped investing emotional energy in trying to fix our problems. Her silence represented disengagement rather than understanding. 5 years of marriage can feel like a lifetime or a blink of an eye, depending on what you discover at the end. During those years, I thought we were building a solid foundation for our future together. We had established routines, shared financial responsibilities, and created what seemed like a stable partnership. However, the discovery of Anna's affair recontextualized those 5 years as a period of gradual deception and emotional distance that I had completely misunderstood. Anna's transformation from complaining wife to silent observer should have alarmed me, but I interpreted it as relationship maturity. Her lack of arguments seemed like acceptance of my career priorities and understanding of our financial goals. The truth was that she had simply found alternative sources for the attention and affection she wasn't getting at home. What I didn't realize was that my next career advancement would create the perfect conditions for her to explore those alternatives more thoroughly. The promotion that changed everything. More money, more problems. Getting promoted to chief mechanic at the salt mining facility sounded impressive when I accepted the position, but nobody mentioned that the title came with a marriage to industrial equipment that demanded more attention than my actual wife. The promotion meant overseeing all mechanical systems throughout the plant and managing a team of skilled technicians. I was essentially fixing pumps at midnight while my relationship leaked by daylight, though I remained completely oblivious to this ironic parallel. My days stretched longer as I stayed late to complete maintenance reports, plan equipment schedules, and ensure every machine operated at peak efficiency. The increased income should have improved our quality of life, but instead created a gap between Anna and me that I completely failed to notice. I justified every late evening at the plant by telling myself I was building our financial future and securing stability for the children we planned to have someday. Each extra hour spent troubleshooting equipment problems represented another step toward the comfortable life I envisioned for us. The irony of working harder to provide for my family while accidentally neglecting the family I was providing for became painfully obvious only after everything fell apart.